I should have known the moment I met her mother that this story wasn't going to end well. My name is Dan. I'm 42 years old. I live in Queens, New York, and I run a small HVAC business I inherited from my dad. Nothing fancy, but it keeps the lights on and the guys paid. That's how I met Vanessa. It was October 2010. I'd just taken over the business, was running around like a headless chicken trying to keep jobs straight, invoices filed, and the truck from breaking down. That day, I'd stopped into the deli down the block from our site on Jamaica Avenue to grab lunch for the crew. Pastrami on rye, 2 bacon, egg, and cheeses, black coffee, and a Gatorade. She bumped into me by the pickle barrel. Literally. She turned too fast from the counter with her kale salad and sparkling water and smacked straight into my chest. Said, "Oh shit," before even looking up. Then she did look up, blinked, and laughed like it was the funniest thing that had happened all week. I liked that laugh. It was real. No filter. No high society effect. Just her. She was new in town, worked as an assistant buyer for some boutique design firm in the city, lived in a tiny apartment near Astoria and hated the subway but loved the energy of it all. She asked me if I was from around there, and I told her yeah, born and raised. One thing led to another, and by the time our orders came out, we were already talking about music, bad landlords, and our shared love of old Clint Eastwood movies. By Christmas, we were practically living together. She'd leave her stuff at my place most nights, started making suggestions about furniture, and even color-coded my closet one weekend. My friends joked that she was the one, and for a while, I believed them. I thought love meant showing up, working hard, being the guy who fixes stuff and never bails. My dad taught me that. Be reliable, be solid, be there. But it turns out, sometimes that's not enough. Vanessa was different. I knew that from day one. Her nails were always perfect. She never left the house without mascara, and she could pronounce charcuterie like it wasn't a foreign language. But I thought that didn't matter. She liked me, didn't she? The way she curled up on the couch next to me in my busted flannel hoodie said more than any romantic dinner ever could. Or so I thought. The first red flag was her mom, Lorraine. First time I met her, Vanessa took me up to her apartment on the Upper East Side. I walked in wearing a polo and khakis, feeling like I was dressed up. Lorraine took one look at me and said, "Oh, you must be Dan, and that way people say you must be the help." She didn't insult me outright. She smiled while slicing brie and asked me if I did any long-term planning for my HVAC work. Asked it like she was genuinely curious, but the edge in her voice told me otherwise. She had this way of looking through me like I was a contractor giving a quote she already knew she wouldn't accept. Still, Vanessa laughed it off later, said, "That's just my mom," and I let it slide. I shouldn't have, because the more Lorraine showed up, the more Vanessa pulled back. It was subtle at first. She'd go quiet during dinner. She'd start saying things like, "My mom thinks we should wait before combining our finances," or "Mom says we should travel more before settling down." I told myself it was normal. Every couple deals with outside opinions, right? But something was changing, and I didn't have the language to explain it back then. I didn't see that she wasn't fighting for us. She was waiting for me to change, to become someone I wasn't. And every time Lorraine raised an eyebrow, I lost a little more ground, a little more Vanessa. Looking back, maybe I was the only one who thought we were building a life together. Maybe, to her, I was just a good guy in a transitional phase. A project, but at the time, I was all in. And that's where I made my biggest mistake, thinking love was enough to make someone stay. Because sometimes, love's just the first thing to go. Vanessa got pregnant about 6 months in. Twins. I remember the moment she told me. We were standing in the tiny kitchen of our place in Woodhaven. She was barefoot in a Giants t-shirt, holding up the pregnancy test like it was a lottery ticket. She was shaking. I pulled her into a hug before either of us said a word. We were both scared, but there was something about that fear that felt sacred. Like, yeah, life just flipped the script on us, but we'd figure it out together. That's what I believed. For a while, she seemed to believe it too. We started picking baby names, went to those birthing classes with the bad chairs and too many icebreakers. I took on extra hours, started planning out how to expand the business without burning myself out. I wasn't rich, but we'd be okay. I'd make damn sure of that. And then Lorraine threw that dinner party. She called it a celebration, said it was a chance for everyone to meet and toast to the new chapter. I had my doubts, but Vanessa begged me to come, said it'd mean a lot to her. So I went. Worst mistake I made that year. The second I walked into Lorraine's townhouse, I felt like I'd stepped onto another planet. White leather furniture, a crystal chandelier the size of a Honda Civic, soft jazz playing in the background, waiters, actual waiters, floating around with silver trays of wine I couldn't pronounce. I was the only one in jeans. I caught Vanessa's eye when we walked in. She smiled, but it was tight, like she was bracing for impact. Lorraine floated toward us in a silk blouse and kissed Vanessa's cheek, then turned to me and said, "Oh, you made it," like I'd RSVP'd maybe to a party I didn't belong at. We were barely 5 minutes in before the interrogation started. Some guy from her mother's wine club leaned over during dinner and asked, "So, you work with air conditioners, right? Must be seasonal." Another chimed in with, "Do you own the business or just manage the day-to-day?" I gritted my teeth and smiled, said I ran my own company, that I had a team of 5 and contracts with 3 property managers across Queens. But I saw the looks, the nods that didn't quite reach their eyes, the way Lorraine sipped her wine every time I spoke, like she was waiting for me to say something embarrassing. Halfway through dinner, Lorraine turned to me with that damn smile and said, "So Dan, once the babies arrive, what's the plan? I mean, HVAC must get unpredictable. Do you have a backup?" I swear to God, the room went quiet. I looked at Vanessa. She was staring down at her plate, pushing around a piece of asparagus like it held all the answers. I said, "I've got savings. Business is good. We'll be fine." Lorraine nodded like she didn't believe a word. "Of course, it's just, with twins, you want a certain kind of stability, you know? Especially for a family like ours." A family like ours. That hit me like a punch in the gut. I forced a smile and reached for my water instead of the $90 red she'd paired with the duck. We left early that night. I told Vanessa I had an early call in the morning, but truth was, I couldn't stand another minute of being a damn exhibit at her mother's zoo. Things changed after that. Vanessa got quieter. She started having long phone calls with her mom in the other room, voice low, like she didn't want me to hear. When I asked what was up, she'd just say, "It's nothing. She's just checking in." But I wasn't stupid. I could feel myself being pushed out, not by her words. She barely spoke them anymore, but by the silence. By the way she stopped asking me about paint colors for the nursery. By the way she didn't laugh when I cracked stupid jokes at dinner. I felt like a stranger in my own home, like I was standing on a rug someone was slowly pulling out from under me. And the worst part? Vanessa wasn't fighting it. She wasn't defending me. She wasn't pushing back. She was just letting it happen. That's when I realized I wasn't the other half of a team. I was a placeholder. And Lorraine? She wasn't trying to get rid of me. She was grooming Vanessa for something else entirely. Vanessa barely spoke during the last few weeks of her pregnancy. She moved around like a ghost, there but not really present. We'd sit on the couch, and she'd be scrolling through her phone, not even reacting when I talked about names or baby furniture or how I was planning to take a few weeks off after the birth. She'd just nod or mumble something like, "That's good," and go right back to staring at her screen. I chalked it up to nerves. Figured carrying twins was exhausting, and her body was just tapped out. But deep down, I felt it, that distance. It wasn't just physical. It was something colder, like she'd already started imagining life without me in it. When the twins came, a boy and a girl, I was right there in the hospital room, holding her hand, wiping sweat from her forehead, cutting the cords when the nurse asked. I cried when I saw them. My son had a full head of dark hair and the loudest lungs I'd ever heard. My daughter looked exactly like Vanessa, even had her little scowl. I thought maybe that would bring us back together. That shared all you're supposed to feel when you look at your children for the first time. But when I handed Vanessa our daughter and saw her barely glance at me, I knew. I was already gone in her head. She didn't even pretend anymore. The first week home was chaos. Sleepless nights, diapers everywhere, bottles to sanitize. But I did it. I did all of it. Vanessa nursed, and then went straight to bed. I was the one up at 2 a.m., burping them in shifts, trying not to let the cries rattle me too much. I figured we'd settle into some kind of rhythm, but she kept pulling away. And then, one morning, everything shattered. I'd gone out early to pick up parts from a supplier in Brooklyn. It was a Saturday, and I remember feeling good for once, proud of the way I was holding it all together. I even grabbed coffee for Vanessa, the kind with oat milk and 2 pumps of vanilla like she liked. I thought maybe we could have a moment. Maybe she'd smile, say thank you, and things would feel normal again. I walked into the apartment and heard drawers opening in the bedroom. At first, I thought she was just tidying up, but then I saw it. My duffel bag, lying open on the bed. She was packing it. My jeans, my socks, even my toothbrush, all of it neatly folded and zipped up like I was heading out on a trip I didn't know I was taking. I froze. What? What are you doing? Vanessa didn't look up. She just said, "My mom found a place for us. It's closer to her. There's more help." "What do you mean a place for us?" I asked, the words sticking in my throat. "I mean, for me and the babies. And me." She finally looked at me. Her face was blank. Not angry. Not sad. Just done. You don't fit into the life I want for them, she said quietly. I stared at her. Are you serious right now? You're kicking me out? I'm their father. She didn't flinch, didn't cry, didn't raise her voice. It's not personal. I can't do this with you. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the bag across the room. I wanted to ask a million questions. How long had she been planning this? Was Lorraine behind it? Did I ever mean anything to her at all? But I didn't say any of that. I just stood there, like a damn idiot, holding a coffee she'd never drink, watching her zip up the last piece of my life. She walked past me with the bag and set it by the door. I already put your tools in the truck, she said. You can pick up the rest later. That was it. No fight, no begging, no second chances. I walked out of the apartment with nothing but a duffel bag and a spine cracked in two by the weight of what I couldn't fix. As I stepped into the hallway, I heard one of the twins crying. And then I heard her, Vanessa, singing softly, like nothing had happened, like I was just some guy passing through, no more connected to them than the UPS driver dropping off a package. That was the moment that broke me. Not getting kicked out, not the silence, not even the betrayal. It was the way she walked back into that apartment like I'd never existed, like I was never their future. Just a mistake she corrected with a suitcase and her mother's approval. I slept in my truck the first few nights, parked behind the shop, engine off, jacket for a blanket, my duffel bag under my head. It was late spring but still cold at night, the kind of chill that crept into your bones and didn't let go. I'd crack the window just enough to breathe, hoping the neighborhood cats wouldn't try to sneak in. They did anyway. The guys at work noticed right away. My foreman, Rudy, came in on day 2 with a box of donuts and a look that said, "Say something or I'm calling your mother." He asked if everything was okay, and I just nodded, said, "Yeah, just dealing with some stuff at home." He didn't press, but I could tell he knew. Guys like Rudy don't push with words. They offer to fix the alignment on your truck and pretend like it's for safety, not sympathy. A couple of the crew offered to let me crash on their couches. Said it casual, like, "Yo, if you ever need a spot, my place is open." I thanked them, but I couldn't do it. I was too damn proud. Too stuck in that old-school idea that a man handles his own problems. But the truth was, I didn't feel like a man anymore. I felt like a shell, a husk of who I'd been just a month earlier, a guy with a business, a partner, a future, and 2 babies he thought he'd spend the rest of his life raising. Now I was nobody, no home, no family, just an HVAC truck and the hum of compressors to keep me company. Work became a blur. I'd throw myself into the jobs, 12-hour days, climbing rooftops, lifting units I had no business lifting solo. I started making mistakes. Forgot a permit here. Left a panel loose there. Nothing huge, but enough for Rudy to pull me aside one afternoon and say, "Boss, you need sleep. Real sleep. Or a drink. Maybe both." He was right, but I didn't want sleep. Sleep meant dreams, and dreams meant faces, 2 little ones I barely got to hold before they were pulled away like I was some kind of danger. I tried calling Vanessa once. Just once. Straight to voicemail. "No, sorry I can't come to the phone. No, leave a message." Just emptiness. Like she'd scrubbed me from the world. I sat there in the truck after that call, phone in one hand, half a sandwich in the other, and for the first time in my life, I didn't know what I was supposed to do next. I wasn't angry. I wasn't crying. I was just blank. The silence ate me alive. At night, I'd stare at the ceiling of the cab, replaying the last few months in my head like a bad movie I couldn't shut off. Her laugh, Lorraine's smirk, the way my son gripped my pinky that one time at the hospital, the way Vanessa said, "You don't fit." That line haunted me. You don't fit. Not you hurt me. Not you failed. Just, I didn't belong. Work lost its meaning. Money meant nothing. I had more in savings than most guys my age. But what was the point? I didn't want a new apartment. I didn't want a vacation. I just wanted what I lost. The version of life where I mattered. Nights were the worst. Nights reminded me I had no one waiting for me. No light in the window. No baby cries. No tiny socks in the laundry or bottles in the sink. Just darkness and the soft hum of a city that didn't care. That's what rock bottom feels like. Not fire. Not chaos. Just cold. Just quiet. And the aching question on repeat in your head. What was the point of all of it? If this is where I end up. After 2 months, I gave in. Rudy had mentioned a side job. A rehab center out in Flushing needed some units rewired, fast, under the table. I usually turned those down. Too much risk, too many corners to cut. But I needed something to do that wasn't sitting in my truck counting ceiling bolts. Cash gig, no questions asked. Seemed perfect for a guy living behind his own damn shop. The place was an old community center, turned halfway house. Paint peeling off the trim, busted vending machines in the lobby, and the smell of stale coffee everywhere. The kind of place you only end up in after everything's fallen apart. which made it feel oddly familiar. I spent the first day crawling through dusty drop ceilings, patching frayed wiring with half the tools I was used to. No one said much, just a nod here, a need help there. Until the second day, when a guy named Paul walked up while I was elbow deep in a wall unit. He looked about my age, maybe a little older, with one of those quiet, measured voices that made people lean in to hear. "You good with HVAC?" he asked. I wiped my hands on my jeans. "I run a shop. Least I used to." He nodded like that meant something. "You ever teach it?" "Teach?" I laughed. "Nah, I barely graduated high school. Teaching's not really in my blood." Paul didn't flinch. "We've got a few guys here doing trades training. Ex-cons, addicts, some just out of luck. I run a small program in the evenings. Wouldn't hurt to have someone like you come by. Show him the ropes." I started to say no. I had 100 reasons. No time, no energy, no patience. But then I thought about the truck, the silence, the way I'd started forgetting what my own voice sounded like. So I said, "One class." That first night, 4 guys showed up. One was asleep before I even finished my intro. Another spent the whole hour cracking jokes about Freon and weed. But one kid, name was Reggie, asked me how to tell if a capacitor's dead just by looking at it. And something clicked. I found myself explaining it, then demoing it, then tearing open an old unit to show them how it all fit together. They started calling me coach by the end of the week. I didn't know how to process it. I wasn't a coach. I wasn't even whole. But hearing that, even once, made something in my chest shift. Like maybe I wasn't dead weight after all. Maybe I still had something to give. It became a weekly thing, then twice a week. Then I started bringing in old units from the shop for them to practice on. Reggie and the others started fixing things I couldn't. Not appliances, but themselves. One night, Paul caught me after class. Said, "You ever think maybe this is what you're supposed to be doing?" I shrugged, thought I was supposed to be a dad. He didn't smile, didn't say anything soft, just put a hand on my shoulder and said, "You still can be. But maybe this is part of it." That stuck with me, because I wasn't just rebuilding busted compressors. I was rebuilding something in myself. The part that still wanted to show up for people, to be needed, to be respected. Then, during one class, this guy Danny, new kid, smart, too quiet, said something weird. We were breaking down an old ductless mini-split, and he goes, "My cousin Lorraine's got one of these. She pays like $2,000 a month just for air conditioning in Manhattan." Lorraine. I froze. "What's her last name?" He told me. Same Lorraine. Vanessa's mother. Small world. I didn't say anything else. Just nodded and went back to work. But later, I sat in my truck, staring out the windshield, thinking about how tiny the world really is. How no matter where you go, the past has a way of circling back. But for the first time, it didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a signal that maybe I wasn't supposed to go back and fix the past. Maybe I was supposed to build something new, out of old tools, broken parts, and second chances. That gig turned into something more. Paul kept asking me back, and pretty soon I was there almost every night. What started as a side thing, just to keep me from losing my mind, became the only part of my life that made sense. I didn't know it at the time, but I was starting over, one beat-up unit at a time. 6 months later, I took a leap. I signed a short lease on a busted storefront in Ridgewood old laundromat space. Paint peeling off the bricks, windows so dirty you couldn't see through them. But the bones were solid, and the rent was cheap. I hung a crooked sign out front, "Rebuild HVAC." Didn't think too hard about the name, just felt right. It wasn't a business in the traditional sense. Not at first. I wasn't chasing contracts or profit. I was chasing something else, purpose, I guess. I took in guys no one else would hire. Parolees, veterans with records, kids who'd aged out of foster care. If they wanted to learn, I taught. If they messed up, I made them fix it. No lectures, no pity, just tools and time. We fixed old units people donated, ones most shops would scrap. We cleaned them up, rewired them, gave them a second life. Then we'd deliver them to low-income homes in the borough, families sweating through summer because they couldn't afford central air, or seniors stuck in apartments where windows barely opened. Word started to spread. One day a local reporter from the Queens Gazette stopped by, said she heard about us through a social worker whose client got one of our free installs. I showed her around, told her what we were trying to do. She snapped a few photos of the guys working: Reggie, Danny, a kid named Jamal who could rewire a board faster than I could unscrew the casing. The article ran under the headline, "Second Chances Run Cooler in Queens." Corny, sure, but it hit. After that, donations picked up. So did volunteers. A guy from a parts supplier started dropping off leftover inventory. A retired electrician offered to teach a wiring class. Someone from the city council reached out and asked if we'd consider applying for a small business grant. I filled out the paperwork with help from one of the guys who used to work tech support before addiction took him off the rails. We got it. Not a fortune, but enough to expand into Brooklyn and Bronx. Rebuild HVAC became more than a name. It became a mission, something I could stand behind, something that finally made me feel right, not just useful, but whole. I was working 12-hour days again, but this time the exhaustion didn't feel hollow. I'd collapse into bed, a real bed, in a small studio above the shop, and sleep hard. No dreams, no ghosts, just quiet. But even with everything going right, there was still a hole I couldn't patch. I hadn't seen my kids in almost 2 years. No photos, no updates, not a word from Vanessa. I told myself they were fine, that her family had money, resources, access, that they were fed and clothed and maybe even in private preschool by now. But in the back of my mind, I kept wondering, did they know about me? Did she tell them? Did my son still cry like he did that first night in the hospital? Did my daughter still have that little crease between her brows like her mom? Most nights, I didn't let myself think about it. But some nights, after locking up the shop, I'd sit in the back stairwell with a warm beer and stare up at the sky like the answers were written there. That's when the message came. A Thursday, late. I was cleaning out an old wall unit and my phone buzzed. Vanessa's sister. We hadn't spoken since the baby shower. The message was short. Hey, the twins have been asking questions. Think we should talk. My hands went cold. I read it twice. 3 times, then sat down hard on the floor, my back against the busted unit, heart pounding like someone had plugged me into the damn compressor. I didn't know what she meant. I didn't know what came next. But for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't dared to feel in a long time. Hope. We met at a coffee shop in the Bronx. It was one of those chain places inside a grocery store, half espresso machine, half self-checkout noise. Not exactly where I pictured having this kind of conversation, but I wasn't about to be picky. Vanessa's sister, Rachel, was already there when I walked in, nursing a lukewarm latte like it was vodka. She looked tired, older than I remembered. Same eyes as Vanessa, but without the bite. Dan, she said, standing halfway. I nodded. Rachel. We sat. No hug, no small talk. She got right to it. They've been asking about you, she said, stirring her coffee without looking up. Your son especially. He asks why there aren't any pictures of you in the house. Why his dad doesn't come to the school things. I swallowed hard. And what does Vanessa tell them? Rachel hesitated. That it's complicated. That you left. I clenched my jaw. Of course. She set the stirrer down and finally looked at me. I'm not here to defend her. She's struggling. Burned out. Overwhelmed. And bitter. All the time. I didn't gloat. I didn't roll my eyes or say, good. I didn't want her pain. I just wanted to see my kids. Where are they now? I asked. With me today. Vanessa needed a break, so I took them to the park. I thought maybe, she paused, if you wanted to come. My chest tightened. I hadn't prepared for this. I figured this would be a recon mission, a quiet talk, a plan for next week. But now, I want to, I said. I don't want to scare them. Rachel smiled, faint and sad. Therefore, Dan, they're not scared of much. They just want the truth. We drove in silence to a park off East Tremont. It was small swings, 2 slides, a climbing structure shaped like a dinosaur. The kind of place you'd forget if you blinked. But when we pulled up, I spotted them right away. My daughter was on the swing, her pigtails flying out behind her. My son sat in the sand pit, lining up toy trucks like a mini general. I stepped out of the car and felt my knees go loose. They look grown, I said, my voice breaking a little. Rachel touched my arm. Go slow. Just say hi. I walked over. Every step felt like a mile. Every second, I expected one of them to scream, to run, to say they didn't know who I was. But they didn't. My son looked up first. His eyes locked on mine, same shape, same color, and he tilted his head. Are you Daddy Dan? My throat caught. I am, I said, if that's okay with you. He nodded slowly, then looked at my daughter. She hopped off the swing and came over, her brow furrowed in that way I remembered from the hospital. She studied me like a scientist, then reached out and touched my hand. Your hands are rough, she said. Work hands, I told her, from fixing big, loud machines. She smiled. That's cool. I sat in the sand with them for 10 minutes, then 20. Then I lost track of time. We built a crooked castle. I showed them how to make tunnels with their fists. My son leaned against my arm like it was normal, like it hadn't been 2 years. That's when I saw her, Vanessa, walking toward us. She wore sunglasses, like always, too big for her face, like armor. But when she got close, she took them off. Her eyes were tired. The makeup couldn't hide the dark circles. She looked human, not like the cold, polished woman who packed my bag and sent me into exile. Hey, she said softly. I stood. Hey. The kids ran to her, yelling something about Daddy Dan made a volcano. She laughed, really laughed, and for a second, I saw the girl I met at the deli years ago. She looked at me. They've been asking about you for a while now. And you didn't tell them the truth, I said. Not angry, just stating a fact. No, she admitted, because I didn't know how. We stood in silence, watching them. I'm not here to be your man, I said. I'm here to be their dad. Vanessa nodded. I get that. Another pause. Then she said it. My mom. She pushed me into all of it. The new apartment. The distance. She made you into the villain because it was easier than facing how scared I was. I let her do it. It wasn't a full apology, but it was something. And for me, it was enough to begin again. With them, not her. Because I wasn't looking for redemption. I was looking for my place, next to my kids in a sandbox, hands dirty, heart open. I didn't fight for custody, didn't hire a lawyer or drag Vanessa into court. I wasn't interested in a war. I'd lost enough time, missed enough milestones, burned enough nights staring at ceilings and wondering if my kids even knew my name. I just wanted to be their dad. Vanessa and I met a week after the park. Neutral ground, a diner on Queens Boulevard with cracked vinyl booths and terrible coffee. She came alone. No lawyers, no Lorraine, no hidden agenda. We talked like adults. Like two people finally tired of pretending they had it all figured out. I want them to have consistency, she said, stirring sugar into her coffee. Routine. I want them to know I didn't leave, I said. That I've been here, even when you didn't let me be. That was the only tense moment. She didn't argue, just nodded and looked out the window like maybe the answers were out there somewhere in traffic and pigeons. In the end, we settled on something simple. Weekends, holidays, FaceTime calls in between. It wasn't everything, but it was something. The first time they came to stay with me, I cleaned the entire apartment twice, bought way too many snacks, picked out 2 little twin-size mattresses and let them pick the sheets, dinosaurs for my son, rainbow hearts for my daughter. They were shy that first night, quiet and unsure. But kids are fast healers. By Sunday morning, they were yelling for waffles and asking if I could build a pillow fort big enough to reach the ceiling. They started calling me Dad, without hesitation, like it was never in question, like the 2-year gap didn't mean a thing. Vanessa and I stayed civil. We kept it about the kids. Drop-offs were short and to the point. No fights, no games. Just 2 people doing what needed to be done. Her mom never showed her face again. I think Vanessa finally saw her for what she was, not a protector, not a guide, just a scared woman who controlled things by cutting out anything that didn't fit her idea of proper. I didn't need closure with Lorraine. Her silence was all the closure I needed. Meanwhile, Rebuild HVAC kept growing. We got another grant, then a donation from a local church. The guys built out a new training space in the Bronx, half classroom, half repair shop. We started hosting weekend workshops for high school kids who wanted to learn a trade but had no one to teach them. Some days I'd look around and wonder how the hell I ended up here. Not rich, not famous, just solid, grounded, awake. One afternoon, a guy from one of our early classes, a former construction foreman named Luis, pulled me aside. My kid just turned 12, he said. He told me I was like a real father now, not just a guy who disappeared. You gave me that, coach. He clapped me on the back, real hard, and walked off. I stood there for a second, floored, because all this time, I thought I'd lost the title of father the day Vanessa packed that bag and sent me out the door. I thought being a dad meant presents, daily routines, bedtime stories, all the things I missed. But maybe it's not just that. Maybe being a dad is showing up even when you're not wanted. Maybe it's finding your way back without bitterness, leading by example, not pressure. Maybe it's teaching others how to build, not just machines, but lives. The real win? It wasn't revenge. It wasn't proving Lorraine wrong or making Vanessa admit she messed up. It was seeing my kids on a Sunday morning, pancake syrup on their faces, calling out Dad. Come look at this tower. Like I'd been there all along. It was hearing a grown man call me a father figure and realizing it didn't sting. It filled something in me I didn't even know was still empty. I didn't get my old life back. I built a better one. And every time I show up at that sandbox or that school play or that little diner where my daughter insists they have the best chicken nuggets in the world, I think to myself, this is the life I was meant to fight for. Not the picture-perfect one I lost. The one I built, rough hands, rebuilt hard, and all